Hello and welcome to our own podcast. I'm Sophie.
And I'm David. It's really lovely to have you here with us today.
Before we start, a quick and warm request. If you're enjoying these episodes, please subscribe to the channel. It's completely free and it means we can keep making lessons like this one every week. A like on the video really helps us reach more learners. And if you have a thought or a question about today's topic, please leave it in the comments. We read every single one. And if you know someone who is learning English, please share this episode with them. Right, let's go.
Today's topic is one that comes up again and again. We hear it from learners at every level, in every country, in every situation.
And the topic is this. You study English. You practice. You feel quite confident. Then you watch a British film, or you speak to a native speaker at work, or you visit England. And suddenly, you cannot understand a single word.
They're talking so fast. The words are running together. You catch maybe one word in 5, and you feel completely lost.
If that sounds familiar, this episode is made for you. Because today, we are going to explain exactly why native speakers are so difficult to understand. And we are going to give you the best, most practical tips to help you catch up.
And I want to say something before we begin. If you struggle to understand fast native speech, that does not mean your English is bad. It does not mean you have been studying wrong. It means you have been learning one kind of English, and native speakers speak a slightly different kind. Today, we are going to close that gap.
Let's start with the most important question. Why do native speakers sound so fast?
The honest answer is, they don't actually speak faster than you think they do. Most native English speakers speak at around 120 to 150 words per minute in normal conversation. That's not extremely fast. The problem is something else entirely.
The problem is connected speech. And this is the single most important concept in today's episode. So let's take a moment to really understand it.
When a native speaker talks, they don't say each word separately with a little pause between each one. They connect words together, they reduce sounds, they drop sounds completely, and they change the shape of words depending on what comes before and after.
So a sentence that looks like this on paper, "What do you want to eat?" sounds like this when a native speaker says it naturally. "What do you want to eat?"
Same words, completely different sound. And if you have only ever heard the textbook version, "What do you want to eat?" the natural version sounds like a completely different language.
This is why so many learners say, "I understand my English teacher perfectly, but I cannot understand real British people." It's because teachers often speak more clearly and more slowly than they would in real life, which is helpful for learning. But it means learners are not always prepared for natural speech.
So connected speech is the root of the problem. Now let's look at exactly how it works, because once you understand the rules, it stops feeling random and starts feeling logical.
The first thing that happens in connected speech is called linking. This is when the last sound of one word joins to the first sound of the next word. So instead of two separate words with a gap between them, you get one smooth sound.
For example, turn it off. In natural speech, the T at the end of turn links to the I at the beginning of it. So it sounds like turn it off. One smooth sound, not 3 separate words.
Another example, an apple. The N at the end of an links to the A at the beginning of apple, and it sounds like an apple. One word, smooth.
Once you start listening for linking, you hear it absolutely everywhere in natural British speech. It never stops.
The second thing is called reduction. This is when certain words, particularly small grammatical words like to, of, and, the, have, them, are shortened or weakened in fast speech.
So going to becomes gonna. Want to becomes wanna. Have to becomes hafter. A lot of becomes a lotter. Kind of becomes kinder. Give me becomes gimme.
Now, these are not slang words. They are not lazy speech. They are completely normal features of natural spoken English. Every native speaker uses them, all the time, without thinking about it.
And here is the thing. When you are speaking, you don't need to use these reduced forms yourself, especially at B1 level. But you absolutely need to be able to hear and recognise them. Because if you are listening for going to and the speaker says gonna, you might miss it completely.
The third thing is called elision. This is when a sound is dropped completely from a word or from between two words. The sound simply disappears.
For example, next week. In fast natural speech, the T in next often disappears. It sounds like next week, not next week, next week.
Or last night. The T in last disappears. Last night. Or must be. Sounds like must be. The T is gone entirely.
Or the very common I don't know. In fast speech, this often becomes something like I dunno. The T, the K, the W, all reduced or dropped. 3 words become one smooth sound.
And the fourth and final feature is called assimilation. This is when a sound at the end of one word changes slightly because of the sound at the beginning of the next word. The two sounds influence each other.
The most common example in British English is don't you, which becomes don'tcha. The T and Y sounds combine and produce a ch sound. So, don't you know sounds like don't you know?
Or did you, which becomes didja. Did you see that? Sounds like did you see that? The D and Y combine into a j sound.
Now, I know this all sounds complicated when we list it like this, but here is the good news. You do not need to memorise all these rules and analyse every sentence you hear. What you need is exposure. Lots and lots of listening to natural English, and gradually your brain will start to recognise these patterns automatically, without you even thinking about it.
Which brings us to our practical tips. Because understanding the problem is only half the work. The other half is knowing what to actually do about it.
Tip number 1. Listen to more natural, unscripted English. This sounds simple, but there is a real difference between scripted English and unscripted English. Scripted English, like films with very formal dialogue or carefully produced language learning content, is often clearer and more regular than real conversation.
Unscripted English, interviews, real podcasts, talk shows, sports commentary, genuine conversations, is much closer to how people actually talk. And regular exposure to it is the single most effective thing you can do.
Where to find it? British interview programmes are excellent. Chat shows where guests speak naturally and over each other, sports commentaries on the BBC, documentaries where people are interviewed rather than reading from a script, podcasts where two people have a genuine, unplanned conversation.
And the key word is regular. Even 20 minutes a day of natural listening is far more effective than 3 hours once a week. The brain learns through repetition and habit, not through occasional effort.
Tip number 2. Use subtitles wisely. Now, this one is interesting because a lot of learners use subtitles all the time. And I want to explain when that is helpful and when it actually gets in the way.
Subtitles in English are genuinely useful when you are first encountering natural speech. They help you connect the sounds you hear to the words you know. They are excellent for building vocabulary and for understanding context.
But if you always watch with subtitles, if you never try to understand without them, you are training your eyes, not your ears. Because the moment the subtitles appear, your brain focuses on reading rather than listening. And you never develop the skill of catching fast speech on your own.
The best approach is what some learners call the 3-pass method. First, watch with English subtitles. Understand the content. Second, watch the same clip again without subtitles and actively try to catch as much as you can. Third, go back to the subtitles for anything you missed. This method trains your ear rather than relying on it.
Tip number 3. Practice the technique called shadowing. We've mentioned this in a previous episode, but it is so effective that it absolutely belongs in this conversation too.
Shadowing means listening to a native speaker and repeating what they say at the same time, or just a second behind. Not just the words, the rhythm, the pace, the linking, the reductions. You are essentially mimicking the sound of the speech as closely as you possibly can.
And the reason it works so brilliantly for understanding fast speech is this. When you produce the sounds of connected speech yourself, when you practice saying wadier and gunna and dunno, your ear becomes much better at recognising those sounds when someone else says them. Production and perception are deeply connected in the brain.
You can shadow anything: a clip from a British podcast, a scene from a film, a short interview on YouTube. Start with something slow and clear, and gradually work up to faster, more casual speech. Even 5 minutes of focused shadowing a day produces remarkable results over time.
Tip number 4. Learn the most common reduced forms. Now, there are hundreds of these in English, but a relatively small number appear again and again in everyday speech. If you learn to recognise the most frequent ones, you will catch a very large proportion of natural conversation.
Let me give you the most important ones right now. Listen carefully. Gonna, going to. I'm gonna call you later. Wanna, want to. Do you want to come? Gotta, got to or have got to. I've got to go. Have to. You have to see this. Dunno, don't know. I dunno really. In it, isn't it? Very British. It's cold today, innit? Lemme, let me. Let me think about that. Gimme, give me. Give me a minute. Kinda, kind of. It's kinda complicated. Sorta, sort of. I sorta understand. Because. Very common in British speech. I was late 'cause the train was delayed. Duncha, don't you? Duncha think so?
These forms appear in British conversation constantly. Read through them, listen for them, and practice recognising each one in context. Within a few weeks, they will feel completely natural to your ear.
Tip number 5. Improve your knowledge of stress and rhythm. Because English is what linguists call a stress-timed language, this is a very important idea, and it explains a huge amount about why English sounds the way it does.
In a stress-timed language, the stressed syllables, the important beats, occur at roughly regular intervals. The unstressed syllables between the beats are squeezed, reduced, or rushed through to maintain that rhythm.
Think of it like music. In a song, the beat is regular, but between beats, you might fit 1 note or you might fit 6 notes. They all have to fit into the same space. English works the same way.
So in the sentence, I want a cup of tea, the stressed words are want, cup, and tea. Those are the beats. The words I, a, and of are unstressed. They get squeezed into very little time and they sound reduced. I sounds like a quick ah. Ah sounds like Of sounds like as well.
And once you understand this rhythm, once you start listening for the stressed beats, rather than trying to catch every individual word, natural speech becomes much easier to follow. Because you catch the important words, the key information, and the rest falls into place around them.
This is a genuine shift in how you listen. Instead of trying to hear every word, which is exhausting and often impossible, you listen for the rhythm and the stressed words, and your brain fills in the rest, much like how you can read a text with missing letters if the important letters are there.
Tip number 6. Use context aggressively. And by that I mean, use everything you know about the situation, the topic, the speaker, and what has already been said to predict and fill in what you are hearing.
Native speakers do this constantly, even with each other. Nobody catches 100% of every sentence in a fast conversation, but the brain is extraordinarily good at using context to fill in gaps. I'm going to the blank to buy some milk. Even if you miss the word in the middle, you know from context that it is probably shop or supermarket.
And the more vocabulary you have, the more world knowledge you have, and the more familiar you are with the topic, the better your brain is at making those predictions. Which is another reason why reading broadly in English, even for a learner who wants to focus on listening, is so valuable. Background knowledge makes listening easier.
Tip number 7. Do not stop when you miss something. This is perhaps the most important behavioural tip in today's episode, and it is one that separates learners who improve quickly from those who get stuck.
When many learners miss a word or a phrase, they stop. They rewind. They replay. They feel frustrated. And in a real conversation, of course, you cannot rewind, so they panic completely.
The better strategy is to keep going. When you miss something, note it mentally, keep listening, and use what comes after to work out what you missed. In the vast majority of cases, the meaning becomes clear from the following sentences. And even when it doesn't, you survive. You understand enough to continue.
This takes practice, and it takes courage, because missing something feels uncomfortable. But the more you practice staying calm and moving forward, the more your brain learns to handle the pace of natural speech without shutting down.
And in a real conversation, if you genuinely need to hear something again, it is always completely acceptable to say, "Sorry, could you say that again?" Or, "I didn't quite catch that." Native speakers do this too. It is not a sign of poor English. It is a sign of good communication.
Right, let's bring everything together. Because we have covered quite a lot today, and I want to make sure it all feels clear and manageable.
The reason native speakers are difficult to understand is not because they speak too fast. It is because they use connected speech, linking, reduction, elision, and assimilation, which changes the way words sound in natural conversation.
And the way to get better is not to study grammar more or to memorize more vocabulary lists. It is to expose your ears to more natural English, consistently, over time.
Listen to real, unscripted content every day. Use subtitles wisely, not as a crutch, but as a tool. Practice shadowing. Learn the most common reduced forms. Listen for stress and rhythm rather than every individual word. Use context to fill in gaps. And keep going even when you miss something.
These are not quick fixes. None of them will transform your listening overnight. But if you apply them consistently, a little every single day, the improvement you will notice over the course of a few months is genuinely remarkable.
Right, today's phrase, and it is a wonderfully British one, very fitting for a conversation about listening and understanding.
Today's phrase is to get the gist. G-I-S-T. To get the gist means to understand the main idea or general meaning of something, even if you do not understand every single word. You might say, "I didn't catch everything, but I got the gist of what he was saying. Or, my French isn't great, but I got the gist of the conversation. To get the gist.
A beautiful phrase, and an extremely useful one for language learners, because getting the gist is exactly the skill we've been talking about today. You don't need every word, you need the gist.
Right, before we go, if today's episode helped you feel more confident about listening to natural English, please do leave us a comment. Tell us, what is the hardest thing about understanding fast native speakers for you? Where are you from? We would genuinely love to know.
Please subscribe if you haven't already. We have new episodes every week and each one is completely free. And a like on the video helps us reach more learners around the world who need exactly this conversation.
And please share this episode with a friend who is learning English. Someone who has ever sat through a British film feeling completely lost. This one might genuinely help them.
From both of us, thank you so much for being here. Keep listening, keep going, and remember, getting the gist is enough to start with. The rest will follow.
See you in the next episode. Bye for now.
Goodbye, everyone.